Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast in the history of podcasts. My name is Bryan Neal, here on a solo episode without my friend Bill Caskey. Well, he's away, but I'm not totally solo today. By the way, if you haven't checked out our LinkedIn group, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com or just put Advanced Selling Podcast into LinkedIn. You'll find 13,000 of your fellow friends and listeners there chatting it up. And then shoot us an email. Bill and I have been talking about doing some listener episodes. So send us an email, listener@advancedsellingpodcast.com. Just put in the subject line episode or sample or something like that, and just tell us what you want us to talk about as we head into Q3. So Bill's not here, but my friend Jon Barcellos is here. Jon Barcellos is the director of solutions for a company called Postal. Did I get all that right?
Yeah. Head of Solutions over here at Postal.
Head of Solutions at Postal. So he's our guest today. He's going to be coming out to. Are you coming out to Indianapolis to see us?
I am, in fact. Awesome. Yeah, and I'll be talking about my channel that I believe so heavily in. So
I love it, and I believe heavily in your channel too, which is one of the reasons you're here and we're here today together. But I do want to make one comment that you did say your name is Portuguese.
It is.
If you say it properly in Portuguese, how does it sound?
My full name would be Jon Barcellos.
That's so good, which is great. And the reason I did this, because my beautiful wife, Stephanie, who you've met, I think, if you haven't, you will next week. She's not the most language oriented, like foreign language, but in college, she took, I think, 2 years of Portuguese, and to her own admission, can't say a single word in Portuguese. So when you meet her, if you would, please, I want you just to introduce yourself in Portuguese. And
sure.
And she's going to giggle and laugh. And I'm going to go, babe, you took 2 years of this, and John's Portuguese. I mean, this is offensive to this guy. Like, what
I will be heavily offended. It's funny that you say that about her history, because I don't think I've ever met anybody who, by a choice, went out and learned one of the most aggressive and rough sounding elements of the Romantic languages, because it is kind of Latin based.
Yes,
really Latin based, I should say, but. I've never met anybody who said that, and you'll appreciate this as a child. My grandfather was born in the Azores, and my grandmother was actually born in southern Italy. They met through life having crazy events, right? And
yes.
And they start their family. And I remember as a child, my grandfather, when there was something that nobody else needs to know what we're talking about, he would speak in Portuguese. She would speak back in Italian, and whether it was my father or one of his three brothers, were pretty much the only ones who were still remained fluent, and there would be a response of, "Oh, okay, Dad," or "Okay, Mom." Nobody else knows what the hell just happened, but it was that was so I can understand the pronunciation's hard. Understanding it's even harder. So
that is awesome. I did not know that. My actually, but there's two people. My uncle majored in Portuguese and Spanish, both double majored, and he went to work for Brazilian Airlines, for Varig Airlines, out of college, because he could speak Portuguese, and he still is fluent in both Spanish and Portuguese. From Southern Indiana. How's that? Isn't that crazy? Well, we'll be thrilled to have you out here. So this is a kind of a precursor episode to some things that John's going to be talking about here when he's with us live. By the way, by live, we're talking about our Blind Zebra's big event called Huddle, HUDDLE, for sales leaders, and we're going to have a room packed full of really smart sales leaders, mostly though very humble sales leaders who want to get better and improve themselves. So John's going to be talking about some stuff, but we're going to talk about some stuff before he gets here. And I said I wanted to talk to you first because Postal does gifting, and we're a huge fan of gifting in general as a concept. But I want to talk about even a step before that, maybe through your own experiences in business, this idea of salespeople trying to stand out in such a noisy world. I see people compete for attention on LinkedIn. You see it on social. You see it on the phone, on cold calling. You see it with email. Everyone is just like screaming for attention to try to like be noticed. And a lot of them don't do it very well. And there's a lot of failure in it. So just talk to me first and our listeners a little bit of just about where the state of finding a buyer's attention sits right now.
Yeah. I think I laugh because there's so many ways that, we can take that question.
Yeah.
I think it's important for me to level set with both you, Bryan, and all of the listeners of like my history and why I'm so passionate about this approach. in sales specifically. Growing up, my parents were actually restaurateurs. So as they had businesses, I naturally kind of fell in. It was managing, even into high school, was like helping schedule and kind of learning the tricks of the trade, thinking that was going to be my avenue. I went to college to play football, and like any real football player does, when you get hurt, you find up your second thing. And that second thing for me was the most natural thing for football players, theater performance. So I say that because it allowed me to, that's kind of took me to a lot of different places in the country. And I say that because I think that when we think about the buyer's journey, it's drastically changed. I started using direct mail in my sales process when I was doing consulting work for high-end cocktail bars living in the Bay Area. Because I can come by, I can shoot you the reminder email, I can do all of those things. But the fact that you told me that you and your family are going on vacation in a couple weeks, and I wrote that down, and I send you just the littlest something. I'm not talking about spending $500, $200 even, sometimes not even $100 on a gift. It's about how it connects to the conversation that we had. And I saw that early on in my career. And that's a lot of the reason why I was one of the early employees here at Postal. It was because I saw that as it just works.
Yes.
No matter who you are, we as humans, we always love just getting the thing, and getting the thing is nice, but getting the thing is exceptionally nice when that thing is something tied, like I mentioned, to a very specific conversation we had. It's just looping that in,
Yes.
And really, it's in short, I guess I'm like kind of going off and pontificating about this as we sellers tend to do. But like the reality is it was just being real and being honest.
That's it.
That's it. I think we let our egos drive a lot of it sometimes. That takes us into these weird places that don't really make sense. And then all of a sudden now it's self-serving rather than just being like, no, I wanted to share that with you. And it was kind of like some old adages, of like treat others the way you want to be treated, I think just kind of blends into that.
Yes.
I wish somebody would just listen to what I was saying and I didn't have to repeat myself. And I'm spiraling into being a parent, right? As we have these conversations with our children. But yeah, that's how I see it, man.
That's fantastic. And I love, and you hit it so funny as soon as you said that. By the way, cool background. I mean, this is awesome background, man. You got Italian, Portuguese, and languages and restaurants and football. And I don't even know, do you know my other gig? So the reason my company's called Blind Zebra, I'm an NFL referee. Yeah, I don't know that you even knew that. Maybe you did.
I did know that.
Okay, good.
So I had to be sure that we're going to talk about football when we get together.
The other problem is, you got hurt in your football career. I was just too damn slow. I didn't even get a chance to get hurt to say, well, why'd you get in refereeing? Well, because I got hurt. I mean, I was going to go play at Michigan, but I got hurt. No, I just couldn't even sniff the college field. So congrats. I know that's a great thing. So, and I've written a musical. I've written a musical, a one-song musical that I'll perform for you when you come to our house. And then I also have another play, and I've got another concept for musical. So we got all sorts of things to talk about.
Okay.
When you're in Indianapolis. So super fun. I didn't know all that about you. But here, what I loved about what you said, and I was praying that you would like say it, but I was going to say it and you said it before I did, which is just fantastic. It's just about being real. It's just authenticity at its core. And no one is going to, you're never going to do harm doing that. No one's going to go, how dare you send me a good luck in Bora Bora postcard, John? Who do you think? No one's going to do that. They're going to go, how thoughtful is that?
Yeah.
And it's meaningful. There's only one of those that I got that was relevant to our conversation. And I see people, and I'm trying to diss anybody in the coaching space, but there's so many people that try to come up with trickery to get, to hook and to get. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just be real and authentic? And we have a conversation about, I love Prince. And next thing you know, you send me a little, Prince autographed thing. I'm like, oh my God, it's awesome. Hint, hint. See what I did there? So, well, I love that. That's where you got to. And I love that you came here. I want to mention something else. I'm bragging on you here. You use direct mail when everybody else said it was dead and over and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Was that an act? So some people do that. That's on purpose. Sometimes it's on accident. But what made you step into a place like direct mail where the rest of the world's going, dude, direct mail, man, come on. We got, let's do some videos, man. Direct mail. It takes some guts to do that, to go against the grain. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. I think to be fair, personally, I've done that a couple times in my career. When I was working with the cocktail bars that I had mentioned previously, the idea actually came from a friend of a friend, who had been like selling to in person for restaurant supply hardware, selling to big chains and doing all of this thing. And I remember talking to him one time and he was like, you ever just send a thank you note? Maybe try that. Just see what happens. And it was this like
right.
mind-blowing moment because I hadn't thought of it in the early 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. It just wasn't really a thing, no matter what industry you were in. And then I remember sitting at my grandparents' house to bring them back into this one day. And I was talking to my grandmother and she was like, well, I got to write some letters. And I said, what are you writing letters for? And she was like, oh, this is how she had cousins that were still living in New York and we're all California. And she was like, I'm just going to reach out to some family members and we write each other from time to time. It's nice.
Wow.
And again, so it kind of loops back into that, right? And to your point about like making that choice, when I joined at Postal, it was March of 2020. We hadn't had a lockdown yet, but we were dangerously close to it. So we looked at this and the way that it pivoted. And to your point, everybody thought it was absolutely crazy. What works though is obviously like I talk about the product and like what we changed there and how we made that make sense. But I think the important thing is like realizing again, it's just about being you.
Yes,
that's it. Like, the reality is too, and I kind of used to use this I used to use it as a breakup tool.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not always the right time.
Right.
But if I need you to trust me as your seller, and I'm not trying to, BS you into anything. I'm going to be real with you. And I think that's obviously sellers we always give each other the worst name possible. Right. Yes. So the minute you can be refreshing and they're like, I'm not who you want to talk with. Okay. What makes you say that?
Right.
Okay. You're right. And then they say why? And you're like, you're right. You're not who I wanted to talk to. People respond to that though, And so I've always felt like paying it forward is always really nice. One of the things I even tell my children every night is as they go to bed is like, be brave, smart, and kind. And I look at this as like one of those kind things.
It's great.
It takes a lot more energy to have the frown on your face. It takes a lot more energy to be like, I got to get in the door before all of them, rather than just hold the door open and let those two people go in. It's like I loop all of those, not to be oversimplistic, but I genuinely loop all of those things in together from a category standpoint.
I love it.
So
I love making it simplistic. Because we made it too damn hard these days to do this and do the thing and do the what do you call it, the order of things, I guess, and
the order of operation
and all that stuff. I'm like, yeesh.
All of that I think stems truly from our egos,
right?
Because we've said, because it's so much better, it's so much more powerful, it's so much more this. Like, cut the shit. No, it's not.
Right.
It's actually way more complicated now.
It's so true. This is great.
I'm on the same page with you there.
I love it. I'm talking to Jon Barcellos, Director of Solutions at Postal. He'll be coming out to Indianapolis here in the next week, talking at Huddle, our big VP of Sales Palooza event that we bring VPs of sales from all over the country in to learn and learn new things and network and connect with each other. So here's a question about the impact that gifting can have. So if we take this idea of be our authentic self, have a conversation, move into it, now it goes to another level where I've got a tool like Postal that can really help me do some things. And whether it's you use Postal as a tool or any tool, or you do it yourself, if you're coaching someone who's just getting into this sort of gifting idea. So someone that's listening to my podcast right now and they're going, man, I make all these sales calls, I don't do this. Give me a couple of different ideas to help them get started with this, just the generic idea of gifting to customers or prospects.
Yeah, I love that. I think we think about it in a couple key ways.
Okay.
You had mentioned like an order of process or like a sequence, a cadence type of thing.
Yeah.
I do think those are important. I do think we need those. That's of course how we can find scale, right?
Yes.
However, if we're the IC, like you just mentioned, let's look at what our current process is. Maybe put gifting or a piece of direct mail in for one of those touch points. I'm not saying redo the whole thing.
Bravo.
Make it simple. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Yes.
maybe it's that third touch. Maybe it's the first touch. And the only reason I say maybe, and I would feel no confidence telling you what the golden bullet is on this one, is because we might have different industries we're talking to, or approaching. I think it's important to, and this goes back into being that authentic self. You got to know your buyer.
Yes.
What are they going to resonate with, right?
Yes.
If I'm selling to this company and I go and send them something that's made by their competitor, are they going to be stoked about that?
Whoopsie daisy.
So, you know, little things like that. But the more that we can glean from those authentic connections that we do create, the little tidbits that, hey, when I called, you were in traffic, maybe sometimes there's a joke gift there. I know when I was selling to sellers, when I was early in the Postal days, actually, this is the true story. One of the gifts that I was actually offering to all sales leaders was the Tim Grover book, Relentless.
It's great.
I love the book. I think Tim Grover is and for those who don't know, he was Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant's trainer. The guy's mentality was nonstop, and that's why he worked with the best, right?
Yes.
And created the legends that we know. But this having that sort of kind of like mentality always made sense. It also opened up other avenues where I could talk about sports with somebody, and it always in sales, those are like the first things that always go hand in hand as like sports analogies. So it was a huge, that was an easy one. It was a layup to bring in another sport.
That's fantastic. But now that you're like a transformed theater kid, you got double whammy, right? I mean, you can go My Fair Lady, you can go Rent, or you can go Packers Chiefs.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We're going to talk about all of it.
All the above. I'm the same boat. Wait till we get together next week. You're going to laugh. Okay, so let's go now another level deeper. So now I love the advice piece of, let's just put it in the cadence. So here's where I get a little hung up on just gifting in general. Not hung up. I watch even some of my clients do this who may not know much. And some of my clients, we always tend to think, even companies like Postal, we tend to think of the pool of sales candidates as all software sellers, all SaaS people. Well, there are a crap ton of other sellers that don't sell software, that sell transportation or logistics or machinery or equipment or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I see some, and they tend to be a little less sophisticated. They're usually out sales, route type sale, or they're out in the field and that sort of thing. And so when we talk about gifting, they automatically go to donuts and golf balls. That's all they can come up with, is donuts and golf balls, which just makes me cringe. It's like we're in 1987 again. And so the sophisticated SaaS sellers are real front edge, and they know all this stuff, and they know these fancy things, and they, so help me bridge those two. How does someone be aware of there's something other than golf balls to drop off to someone? Because I almost think that does you more harm than good, because everybody's dropping off golf balls. How do you customize this thing? Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think one of we could lean into something like a pen or something that sits on a desk even, right? But I think when I really start to think about it, something that can not only be seen every day to keep you top of mind, but something that has a practical application.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
That's
because we've all been to these conferences and we come home with swag. Well, I'll speak for myself before I pass any judgment onto you or any listener, because
you're gonna get swag. Don't worry, keep going.
Well, here's what I think though, right? Like our kids end up with some of the swag we come home with.
Always.
We've always, and every one of us has that bag in their closet that has a combination of things from conferences maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Even, right?
Yeah.
The reason we haven't pulled those things out, they're not needed.
Yep.
I had until it broke, and I won't mention the brand that it was, but until it broke, I used to travel with the same phone stand. It's like this little thing that would just like prop my phone up.
Yes.
But I can't tell you how many people asked about that brand because they had never seen the color it was. They had never seen, and you fill in the blanks of just the random questions I would get at different airports or while I was out in a city somewhere and somebody just saw my phone. That simple. Again, it's so simple.
So say those words. So it's you said words. I forget what you said. You said,
oh yeah, I just something that can be practically used.
Something that's used. Yes.
It's useful. Otherwise, it's tchotchke, junk.
It is.
And we've instantly forgotten if that's it. If it was the pen, if it was the golf ball, if it was. I want something that's going to pull me in. I don't want it to be something I'm knocking away from me. Maybe. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Or losing in the woods or the drink. You know
Yeah.
what I
Hey, I
mean?
don't know how you play.
Well,
I would just no judgment here.
I took, I've been to one, professional golf tournament. I went to the Memorial Tournament in Columbus, Ohio several years ago, and I'm watching these golfers play, and I'm like, this is boring. I'm like, you want to see
Yeah.
fun golf? Come with me. We'll see this whole joint. We'll see the bottom of the lake. We'll go in those woods over there, right? We'll go on this other fairway while we're playing this one. It's way more fun.
Yeah, it's a nature walk while you play.
I
It's
mean,
great.
seriously,
Why
these
would
guys just they hit it, it lands, they putt it, they go to the next hole. Like, that's so boring.
the shoes are still white? We don't have time for that.
100%. So, and so then last bit kind of wrap this up. I love where we've gone. It's like very, kind of personal, authentic thing, a unique way to stand out, a little against the grain. We talked about that a little bit. Then we got a little more specific, like making something that's personal, practical, useful for that sort of thing. And then what's the next level of this? How do I get to become what I might call an advanced gifter, or someone who's like, they are utilizing this tool and this concept, to their and their clients' advantage?
Yeah, I live for this question, because this is specifically where my role and my team focus our energy.
Yes.
And in short, we use an analogy here of crawl, walk, run, fly at
Awesome.
Postal.
Awesome.
And that's the journey we want to take our customers on. And this comes from every bit that we touch. But in short, to answer your question, the best way, the most direct way to do that is getting your teams involved. This can't be a one-person effort. It's just like the best sellers know, right? We can't just be out there lone wolfing it by ourselves. We've got to think about how this plays into an overall overarching strategy. And that comes into, just like I said earlier, of I can't say which item is going to be that like golden bullet. For every company that is kind of truly embraced this channel, we see success across the funnel, across pipeline, across use cases.
Yep.
I'm talking about things from, hey, they've been on our website X many times. Let's have a marketing email, send them an incentivization to, hey, we want to share this with you. Thanks for your interest.
Yes.
And after they accepted that gift, here's a calendar link. Go ahead and put time on our calendar if you'd like to hear from us. Leaving that optional, let me just call that out, is wildly, it's incredible how much you'll see honesty come back to you as well. So again, what's working, right?
Yes.
That's a combination of sales and marketing working together. When we think about it on the success side of it, we see some similar things. We can think about how we can drive metrics for our existing customer base, which I'm a firm believer in, because that only supports our pre-sales motion. Because the more we can get good people out there talking about how great our brand is and how they couldn't live without it.
Yes.
Now, game over.
Game over.
People are going to buy from people, and they're going to buy from the people that they trust.
Yes. And they trust you because you know them, and they feel heard and listened to and understood and that sort of thing. And you make their life valuable. And it's typically not golf balls or donuts. It's really, really awesome, man. I'm even thinking to validate. We're big fans of Gong. A lot of people know this software called Gong. It's like AI type calling, recording software, but they have a lot of good stats. One of their stats that's just so compelling is multi-threading on both sides. Multiple sellers, multiple buyers through a buying process. Challenger customer supports that. The book, 5.4 buyers and everything. So what I'm hearing here is multi-threaded gifting on both sides. Maybe gifts coming from my SME or my technical support person going to their technicals, right, across the board, versus just the AE or salesperson to just the air quotes, sponsor or buyer or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, that's a perfect, Brian, that's exactly the way to think about it. Because when we think about that, now we're leaning into automation. And now all of a sudden you've got a deal that closed over X amount in ARR or MRR, depending on your structure. And you wanted the note to come from somebody in the C-suite, because they're truly appreciative of that.
Yes.
Now we can pull in data points from other things. And that gets into of course, like the software and the extra nerdy side of it all. But the root of it is all in that same place of keeping it simple.
It's awesome.
Right? And letting it be relevant at the time, at that point of inflection, maybe is a good way to say it, right?
Love it. Hey, man, this has been awesome. So tell everybody that listens to the Advanced Selling Podcast where to get a hold of you or find their way to Postal.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find Postal at postal.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Jon Barcellos, or for those of us here in the States, it's Jon Barcellos. And I'd look forward to sharing any insight that I can and being any help that I can anytime.
That's awesome, man. It's Barcellos.
Yeah, I should clarify too. It's John with no H.
Oh,
I got the H out.
Sure. Jon. My brother's the same way. JonBarcellos. Jon Barcellos. Postal.com is where you go to find them. If you've listened to the Advanced Selling Podcast for any more than one episode, which I know thousands of you have, and you're not considering a gifting program, you need to get a hold of John and his team at Postal. If nothing more, they're going to send you a gift. it's worth it. Just it, right? I mean, I'm sure you use your own stuff, and
we definitely drink our own champagne. If that's what you're
fantastic, 100%. So go check them out, postal.com. Go find Jon on LinkedIn, and that's all for now. Next time I'll be in studio with my good friend Bill Caskey. As always, check us out on LinkedIn group, Advanced Selling Podcast, and send us an email, listener@advancedsellingpodcast.com if you want to recommend an episode. That's it. See you next time on the Advanced Selling Podcast.